So my number two movie that shaped 2022 is a film from this year, actually, Top Gun Maverick. This is
Oh.
directed by John Krasinski, starring Tom Cruise. I'll just take a pause there because he needs that space. Then the rest of the cast: Jennifer Connelly, Miles Teller, John Hamm, Val Kilmer, and Glenn Powell. The plot summary: after 30 years, Maverick is still pushing the envelope as a top naval aviator, but must confront ghosts of his past when he leads Top Gun's elite graduates on a mission that demands the ultimate sacrifice from those chosen to fly it. So this is continuing a little bit of the theme I talked about with Gravity too, and that this year for me, again, pandemic is over and life is back. We are back, and this movie exemplified more than any other film I saw this year that just movies are back. And theatrical experiences are back. I did see movies in 2021 in the theater, but they, weren't that well attended. Maybe the Bond movie had a lot of folks there, but something felt different. There were masks involved, and this was 100%, what it used to be like to go to a big film. So I was blown away by this movie. This movie it earned its, number one box office status of the year. Tom Cruise's biggest movie of all time, one of the biggest movies of all time. Audiences loved it, critics loved it. It's got a lot of Oscar buzz going for it, and I think it deserves all of those things. But for me, just the character of Maverick, who is someone who, I'll say too, I was never a big fan of the original Top Gun. Saw it once a kid,
Same.
thought it was boring. Rewatched it before this movie, still thought it was boring. Never really into it. So this to me was never about going back to Maverick. It was more about a movie that kind of again exemplifies that we're back, and then also Tom, and that a lot of this was meta commentary on Tom, his career, also movie stars and Hollywood. Hollywood sort of saying, look, we're still here. Theatrical experience is still here. Yeah, you have Netflix and streaming and Stranger Things and TikTok and all these other things that people spend their time on, but that the movies can still be something special. And I think Maverick in this film too, like he's brought back after 30 years, and he's sort of seen as this guy who's a dinosaur and is only really needed because they Val Kilmer's character, who is Iceman, was a friend of Maverick's, and now he's the commander. He's like, oh, this impossible mission, only Maverick is the only one that can do this. In the same way that you can say, Tom is probably the only one that can really save the industry, and he kind of proved it this year too. So there's a lot of meta commentary about Tom being chosen, Maverick being chosen, and then just impressing everyone, and exceeding all expectations. Again, in the film, Maverick's able to pull off these amazing feats of aerial, I don't know, navigation, or I don't know, flying. Aerial flying is kind of an oxymoron, but you know what I mean. And then Tom, I think again, no one expected him to have such this level of a hit. Yeah, there's just also like a great line exchange at the beginning of this film when he's talking to Ed Harris, who's one of his commanders, who begrudgingly is letting him go back to Top Gun, even though he thinks he sucks. He said, the end is inevitable. Like you're headed for extinction. Like you're kind, and I sort of can read that as, Tom, movie stars, movies in general, the theatrical experience. And he just looks up and he, has this incredible delivery of like, maybe so, but not today. And I was like, oh my God, like that was, yes, you just like pound your fist in the theater. So yeah, like for me, this really, not only was the film incredible, some of the best effects I've ever seen. You put you in the cockpit. I mean, I saw this IMAX at the Chinese theater, giant screen here in LA. One of the best theatrical going experiences of my life, actually. Tom Cruise is really famous for running in every one of his films. Yeah. And at the end of the film, like he takes off and he runs through this forest after like his plane crashes, and the entire audience just jumped up and cheered at that. They're like, he's running. Yeah. Yeah. And it was because we were waiting for that moment. So those sort of things to me is like really captures 2022 and the fact that movies are back, and this film deserves all the money and the praise and everything it's getting. I just could not love this movie more, which I was not expecting to love it this much, even as such a huge Tom fan, but instant classic for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. This was kind of amazing. Was not expecting it to love it. Went to watch it kind of begrudgingly, but of course the buzz has started to build pretty early on that this is something amazing. And I think it blew my expectations away. even after all the buzz that was built. So echo everything you said. And then I think to just the only other thing I would say, because there's nothing else to add to what you just said, which is that I think it became a bit of a unifying topic across the country. If not, well, I don't know, globally.
I think the world, it was a huge hit.
World.
Yeah, huge hit.
And it's not even just like huge hit and people went and saw it, but I think in a world where everybody seems to be, fighting about something or the other, nobody can really agree on anything that people actually like, or viewpoints, and everything is sort of, shredded apart, like, oh, what right does this person have to make that movie, or this movie has two people and they haven't quite given that other person the role, because that person is supporting.
Right.
All sorts of things that are, in the discourse. This is one thing that everybody seems to like and agree with, which I'm happy about. So
no, that's a really good point. I mean, I've mentioned this several times on the podcast before about that, you can have a movie that doesn't necessarily line up with your politics, but you can still like it, and then vice versa as well. So yeah, like if I tried to look into this too deep, it's like, okay, well, why this mission sort of seems like, why are we going into another country for no reason? Who is this other country? We don't deserve the right to kind of all those things. And obviously, military industrial complex. And, the first film was used as a way to recruit folks into the Navy, which I'm not for. And then all those things, the movie is so good that this stuff doesn't matter. Like you can just sit down and be like,
circumvents all of that.
And that is something to your point too, that is nowadays very rare of a thing, that this movie could very easily be politicized or used as some way to say, oh, I'm pro this for these reasons and I'm anti this for these reasons. But yeah, I think that's again the power of this film, the power of Tom, who's had his own controversies in the past.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There's more problematic figure in pop culture than him. So
yeah, it didn't matter. Like, which just goes to the fact that you make a good movie, the filmmaking transcends all of that. I still believe that is more important than the message of the film or what it's really trying to do or how you can read into all these different things. It's just, this movie is just yeah, it's like one of those perfect examples of a film. This is what makes movies powerful, movies special, all that stuff. And I think the fact that the quality is so good pushes out all that other stuff that could have popped up aside, because no one talks about that. They just talk about how amazing Tom is in this film. Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.